I'd like you to sit down if you have a younger sibling. Okay, cool, that was almost everybody. Okay. Sit down if you've ever led a study group. Sit down if you have friends that look up to you and turn to you for advice about their decisions. Chris, sit down. Okay, great. I had so many more questions, but I'm glad this covered everybody. And the reason that I say that is because one of my favorite quotes is by John C. Maxwell, and it says, leadership is not about titles, positions, or flowcharts. It's about the ability to influence the lives of others. And all of you have already shown that you already have the ability to influence the life of others. And I learned that at a very young age. So I know this talk was titled, How I Became a Leader. And I decided to call it Born to Lead because I feel like we're all born to lead, but in my particular case, I have a very special pathway to getting where I am today. So the first thing, when I was pregnant, excuse me. I was a wild teen. When my mother was pregnant with me, okay, she got in an accident where she was ejected from the vehicle. My entire family was in that car that day, and everybody was injured. My mom broke 2 vertebrae in her neck, and the thing that everybody was most worried about was the baby, me, still in her stomach at that time. So they went and got checked out, and they said, okay, everything's fine. But what happened was, after that day, I would start to grow up, and they would notice some different things about me. And what they noticed is that I wouldn't speak. I could not speak. So until I was this age, 3 years old, I never said a word. Thank you. That's why I did it, yeah. Until I was this age, I never said a word. And so my parents thought, what's wrong with him? What's going to come of him? What's his life going to be like if he never speaks? Because I would just sit there and stare out the window, they say. Or when other kids were playing, I would just sit off to the side. Like, they were really, really concerned. And it was interesting because they said as soon as I started talking, I never shut up. In fact, I'm still going. It's also helped me a lot in leadership. Because a lot of people have heard this term that leadership starts with listening. Yeah? Anybody heard of that? Cool. Yeah, I had 3 years of practice of just listening. So by the time I was ready to speak, I was a pro. I was killing the listening game, So, so what ended up happening though, so I said I started to talk, but I didn't slow down as soon as I got going. So, has anybody ever been in a class where there was a lot of kids talking? In high school, junior high, elementary. Yeah, that was me in every class. So I would go into class and I would be talking with other students, and this was a pretty regular thing, and then at some point my teacher would, punish us or reprimand us for talking. And what would always happen is she would say, everybody stop talking. Caliph, stop talking. I'm like, why me? Why am I getting singled out, right? Why are you yelling at me? And so the next day, same thing. Everybody be quiet, be quiet. Caliph, can you please stop? She does not like me. She's saying everybody, and then my name. Like, what's that all about? And then finally, one day, I said, why do you keep picking on me? And she said, Caliph, you set the tone for the class. If you speak, everybody speaks. But if you're cool, everybody's cool. I was like, I'm gonna test this. I don't trust her. I still think she's picking on me. But it was true. Next day I went to class, sat down silently. People looked around, looked at me, looked around. What's going on? What's wrong with this guy? I was back to not speaking. And class went on, cool. Next day, I was back to my normal self, and it was a problem again. And she looked at me like, thought you learned your lesson. I did. I've got the power. That's all I got from it, right? I've got the power. That was the first time I kind of realized that my behavior influenced other people, right? That my behavior had an impact on others, that people might do what I did or follow my lead in some way. And at that young age, I didn't realize what it meant. But it was my first kind of understanding of it's just kind of being who you are, leading by example that really influences other people's lives. So back to that quote I talked about, leadership is not about titles, position, or flowcharts. It's about one life influencing another. And in all those stories that I told you about my youth, my life was influencing other lives. And I didn't realize the value of it at the time. I didn't realize the power of it at the time, but that's really what was happening. And the reason I'm so grateful to be in this position now as a speaker is because this is what I get to do literally as a job. And it's an amazing privilege to be able to serve and contribute in the way that I can, especially given my experiences, being able to bring that back and share it and give it to groups like this, people like you. And what I know is that right now, you're in one of the best positions you'll ever be in, not only to influence the lives of other people, but to develop your ability to influence the lives of other people. To grow as leaders. I mean, we already established that everybody here is a leader in some way, just because of their ability to influence lives. But there's something greater that can be accomplished with your leadership. There's something more that you can get here on campus and in the world if you'll fall into the fact that you're a leader and really embrace that, not only on college, but when you leave here and you go out into the world. And I can tell you that, I didn't always know I was a leader, but after doing what I've done, being a senator, being, president of my university, it became pretty clear that leadership is what I do. And it's a decision that I made to embrace those things that came naturally to me and to start to put those things into action to influence positively the lives of others. So I gave two examples. I wasn't going to say one was positive, one was negative. I guess both were bad, actually, talking in class and TPing homes. But by the time I got out of high school and college, where I really, really discovered my leadership ability and was able to make something of it. So before we get into that, though, so I'm going to have you all say something before I get into the story with me. Does everybody know what call and response is? Okay, that's when I say something and then you say something, and then I say something and then you say something. You're saying the same thing. All right, so we're going to practice it, okay? First, I want everybody to say, I've got a role to play.
I've got a role to play.
Okay, cool. That was okay. So it's late, we just had food, so let's wake up with the words, okay? Let's use the words to wake us up, okay? So I'm gonna say it again. Say, I've got a role to play.
I've got a role to play.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. I felt that one in my body. Oh, good. No. So, I've got a role to play. So, as leaders, we all have a role to play, whether it's in school, in church, in our family life, in the community, we all have a role to play. And ultimately, as human beings, we all have a role to play. We all have a purpose in life. And one of the things I'm going to talk about today and I want you to embrace is the fact that you have a role to play on this campus and in the world. And so as part of leadership, it's understanding and recognizing that what you do matters and that you have a role to play. Next things. I've got something to say.
I've got something to say.
Okay, all together this time. Okay, I've got something to say.
I've got something to say.
Okay, yeah, you've got something to say as leaders, and it's important that we speak up. It's important that we open our mouths at times when other people might be silent. Part of leadership is saying the things that need to be said, sometimes even those things that make other people uncomfortable. The truth hurts sometimes, but the truth is necessary for progress. It's necessary to move things forward, and sometimes it's necessary to influence a person's life. So it's important to know when to speak up, which is usually as a leader quite often. So once again, say with me, I've got something to say.
I've got something to say.
Okay. Now, say, and I take action.
And I take action.
Y'all are getting this whole thing. You're good. Great. Yes. Leadership's also about taking action, right? It's not just about thinking and speaking. It's really about stepping up and leading by example and being the role model for other people. As I moved through my time at UC Davis and progressed through those steps that I took to really maximize my leadership, or I should say maximize my leadership potential and learn how to be a better leader, the entire time there was somebody watching me. So it was important that I don't just kind of talk about my ideas and lead by giving instructions. It's who's going to do it first? And finally, because I'm a leader,
Because I'm a leader.
So we know we're all leaders here, but again, this is about falling in more to our leadership roles. And what I can tell you is that if you are always centered in your role and your purpose and what you're supposed to be doing with your life, if you're always speaking up when words need to be said, and if you're always leading by example, by taking action, everybody will know, you'll know that you're a leader, and you will become a more effective leader at that time. Okay, so one more time. Or actually, now we're going to say it all together. How about that? Okay, so everybody, I'm going to say it, you're going to say it, we're going to say all four, okay? I've got a role to play.
I've got a role to play.
I've got something to say.
I've got something to say.
And I take action.
And I take action.
Because I'm a leader.
Because I'm a leader.
Okay, can we say it one more time with smiles on our faces? Okay, enthusiasm, okay. I've got a role to play.
I've got a role to play.
I've got something to say.
I've got something to say.
And I take action.
And I take action.
Because I'm a leader.
Because I'm a leader.
Give yourself a round of applause. Cool. So, I've got a role to play. Everybody here has something special to contribute to this world. You all were born with a purpose. You all have some role that is necessary for society to be what it's meant to be, for your family to be what it's meant to be, for your campus to be what it's meant to be. There's nobody whose life does not influence the lives of another person.